This is Jose Briones. He is a former colleague and a good friend, and he was recently in a MrBeast video, and he's agreed to be interviewed. But that video is not this video because we're still scheduling it. But I decided I needed a kick-ass description for this new video because I don't know how to put together descriptions, and I gave the task to ChatGPT. Let's roll the intro. This video is going to be very much commentary style because it's 30 minutes and I don't have the time. So I tell ChatGPT that I'm creating YouTube descriptions. I give it the title and some description from a past video. And then I start giving it information like here's a new video that I want to call using GPT, specifically ChatGPT, to generate these descriptions. And the goal here is to, well, kind of have an Ouroboros style, recursion type thing where the description for this video was generated by ChatGPT. So once I run that, I actually get a response fairly quick. So I see that there's a use for it. It's expanding the the very simple thing that I gave it into something that's more usable. Now here on, I start moving up. I start moving along. I start learning how to use it. I look at some of the projects that have been going on in my past, and I realize that maybe I should add a little bit more data to see if I get better outcomes. I think in this one, we're talking about the drone repeater project, which has been in the intro for years, but hasn't come to fruition at any point. So here, I start giving it some information about what the video actually contains, right? So here I tell it like, oh, there's a project where I attach a drone repeater using ham radios to a drone using 3D printed parts, and it's been around for a long time, and just generally trying to feed more info into ChatGPT to see if my output improves in some way. Here I get my output, and interestingly, I actually start getting some information. It's actually able to find that a Baofeng is a handheld radio. It's got a lot of other things that you wouldn't include, and then I just keep doing it. I start just going through and changing my title and then changing my description to see if I can get usable descriptions out of this that I can just put right into a video as a helper, because sometimes you're not able to describe in a simple word what the thing is, but this gives you something that's a good starting point. It doesn't have to be used right away, but it could have some verbiage that you didn't think of when you were thinking of putting the video up. Here I start talking about a video where we're going to look at homemade injection molding on a budget. We are targeting reusing existing things that we have around the house, like a paper shredder, and inspired by another video where somebody uses a pneumatic press to inject solid plastic. And we're going to release this video, but here's the idea behind the video, here's the text, and here's a description that can be attached to this video. And here's a ready-to-use description that says you are recycling old 3D prints and turning them into new and useful objects. Which is not something I said. I just said I'm just going to recycle stuff. And then I move on to another project that's been in the back burner, specifically the Cheetah Lite C38, which I wanted to be a 3D printable system that could be used interchangeably with the Falcon F38 and support like DJI, GoPro, and other types of attachment points so that you could standardize. So let's say you have some cheap lights and you want to use them in a Falcon holder, like on a gimbal or something, just something dumb, right? But you don't want to spend the money on one of these amazing Falcon F38 systems. You can use this as a alternative that you can 3D print at home. This video has been on a holding pattern because I have to print all of it and I have to test it. I have to check measurements. I have to make sure that it works with Falcon and also interchangeably, that it works with the GoPro system, that it works with DJI Action, that it works with like Garmin Edge adapters. And it's just a test of tolerances on a printer versus whether or not it will work at the end. But being able to take just the description off my plate is just one less thing that I got to think about. So this next one, I had wanted to improve the analog FPV experience, because I think a lot of the issues aren't so much the resolution, but the breakup over analog transmission. So I wanted to create an AI based on footage from a DVR on the drone versus what you see in your goggles, and try to teach an AI how to filter out those analog breakup patterns, you know, that fuzziness that makes it impossible to fly a drone. If we can make an AI for that, we could process it, and you could take your old recordings from years ago that you recorded on your goggles and improve them. You know, if we had a really cool race where somebody was doing some great maneuvers, but there was a little bit or a lot of breakup, we could actually improve it so that people could see it from the person's view without a great loss of quality. So that's this video, and I wanted a description that made it good, and let's see what ChatGPT is able to come up with. Actually took a couple tries. I wanted to make some FPV goggles that would allow you to maintain line of sight while you're flying, but unfortunately I had a couple of issues. I couldn't get it to actually understand my prompt, and I had to prompt engineer it a couple times. Like, I think I gave it 3 times, and then I found the final answer at the end when I told ChatGPT that what I was talking about was something that was cheap and a line of sight goggle, as you can see below. So it actually was able to give me something usable, but it was more about prompt engineering than actually like what I wrote. The next video was about FPV droning on a budget. I have a series of drones that I've been, ducting and playing around with on a budget, trying to keep it below $100 for the FPV portions. And what I want to do is see how far you can take each and every one of these, right? On the cheaper side, obviously, we have the Baby Ape 3-inch, and then we have some of the TC MMRC quads, which have some quality assurance issues, but the ones I got worked out of the box. So the goal here is to see what each of these is capable of doing, and this is where ChatGPT is actually able to do something that I did not expect, and you'll see it here. When I submit this, I actually think that there is a problem. I actually believe that it's actually broken and like stuck on something, right? Because I've given it a lot of info, but suddenly it just locks up, and I thought, oh, I broke the thing, right? Let me reset the thread. But after a little bit, I get something that is amazing. This one is actually able to pick up from the description that I like to split off my hardware and the songs that appear in the video, and it also adds something that I've never thought of putting on my videos, which will help you. It actually has a piece of text at the end of the Amazon wish list that says like, oh, here's what the wish list is for, which is not something I've thought of, right? Because my wish list just has stuff for projects, but I never put it in the description. Yet ChatGPT was able to pick up that the wish list had something to do with future projects and said, hey, if you buy stuff from here, it will actually help me do future videos, which is just unexpected. I've put this at the top of the document below where it has everything, but that is something that I did not expect. All right, anyways, let's talk about Skydio. There's a couple of Skydio 2 projects that I've been undertaking. You may have seen them on the channel. And one of the projects I wanted to do was use gyroflow. Now, Skydio has a 3-axis stabilized gimbal. It doesn't need gyroflow. But a lot of people say that, oh, it's very robotic. So I wanted to put a small gyro on the gimbal so I could fix that. And I gave it to ChatGPT to see if it came up with something, and one of the things that it came up with was here's the description, and it has realized that a good description includes the hardware, the songs, and all the stuff because I've been feeding it that information, and then what I'm getting back is now even including my Amazon wishlist and that special line at the bottom, which I told you about, that I really liked. You're gonna see that in my description from now on. I am now being told what to do by an AI. All hail the AI overlords, apparently. Alright, the next video is one for a friend. He is having a baby, and we have decided that we're gonna have his baby use technology from day one. So we're gonna have his baby pick his first ham radio and his first drone and everything. The one thing I found about this that was very interesting is that after you get the description for this one, right, we get very much a interesting thing. ChatGPT is able to know that a baby shower is important. It marks it as a special video. Not just a regular video, no, it's a special video. You still have the same thing, and it's able to pick out the hardware that was being used. Alright, the Skydio 2 comes back with single blade propellers. Now for this one, I was actually a little conflicted because the original description that I got from it did not include anything about, safety, right? It said like, oh, don't try this at home. Even though my description said like, hey, don't do this, don't try this at home, the actual output didn't say anything about like, oh, it's dangerous or whatever. So I didn't like that. I grabbed the thing and I redid it in a brand new thread. Okay, so I said, you know what, let's just redo this completely. And I rewrote the prompt, and I still couldn't do it. And then I just gave up, and I went on to a new thread just to generate a brand new output, because I didn't want the output that I put on the video to not say like, oh, this is dangerous, don't do this. And that is a good tip for you. If you're not getting what you want, just reset the thread, and sometimes you'll get a brand new, interesting, different thing. From here on out, I'm basically just going through future projects like for propeller guards and that kind of thing for Skydio. There's not much else here. We still see we no longer see the list of hardware use and that kind of stuff, because I stopped feeding that in. So ChatGPT is very consistent about the input that you get in is the kind of roughly the output you get in. And these Skydio videos that I'm training it on using the description of these existing Skydio videos didn't include that kind of stuff. I didn't put like hardware use because it's in the title. People know what hardware was being used. What I like consistently is that it was like, oh, remember to fly responsibly, follow the rules. I was like, wow, this is actually something I would appreciate. And, although I say don't try this at home, one of the things you should say is, fly safely, try not to get yourself into trouble, that kind of thing. And once I wrap up the propeller guards, we get into the weeds on something else. And specifically in this one, I believe I am talking about hedges. So I have used Hedges before for 3D scanning, and Hedges is an amazing app. And if I'm right about this, this is gonna look amazing. But if I'm wrong, then it's gonna look like no bueno. Yeah. So Hedges offers 3D scanning, and my goal was to mount it on a drone. What I wanted to do was do a low flyover of a runway, specifically the local runway, because one of the biggest issues to aircraft taking off is foreign object debris. It's actually a major threat to lives when people are taking off, because the takeoff and landing are the most dangerous part of a flight. So what I wanted to do was to do a low-level flyover with Hedges using a drone to generate a LiDAR scan of the runways and see if there's any object debris there, because that could potentially help people be safer. And that project is actually moving along. We've actually already mounted the thing to the drone and we've already tested it. We just need to get to the point where we find a proper runway and we get all the clearances and whatnot. But having a description that I can send to someone and be like, oh, this is what we want to do, you'd be surprised how often that is the key to unlocking something. And this is amazing. It says like, oh, we're testing the capabilities, we're gonna save people, this is good for humanity, this thing is selling the dream to somebody else, which is great ultimately. I think the last thing that I show this thing is the Alexa Vision idea, and the Alexa Vision is just a very weird idea. So I have published a couple of videos on GHAlex, specifically the videos around the color grading. So one of the things I always wanted was, what if I could see the world around me in ARRI Alexa captured colors using GHAlex? And that's something I wanted to do for a long time, but it's been on the back burner after everything else that's going on. And this specifically is gonna get me there. What I want to do is build a phone VR app where you can put the phone on your face and the camera will be going out, and you will see in your phone screen a color-coded version of the real world around using GHAlex, and obviously add the accessibility options from what we previously talked about with colorblindness, so that people could colorblind correct their vision in the real world. I think that could help people with disabilities. If colorblindness is really a problem for you, we see other products around the world who are like, oh yeah, you put on these goggles, it's gonna fix your colorblindness. It would be awesome to have a scientific thing that actually applies colorblindness correction to your eyes. And that is a video that is actually on the list, and now I have a description, which is ultimately what ChatGPT should be all about. Alright, I don't really have anything else. It's already been a long video, guys. If you need something, if you want one of these videos to come to fruition, it's great if you could subscribe. If you could leave a comment and tell me which one you're really interested into, I might move it up the list. Just be aware, most of these videos are in pre-production or production, and they're being held back by money, 3D printing time, things that I can't really control, okay? But I appreciate you watching, and if you've watched this far in this video, then you get a gold star, because I wouldn't have sat through this. It's a long video.